I'm sorry, Togepi, I don't see any sharks in the pool, and if you ask me, it sounds like someone called me down here because they were a little lonely. Well, I don't necessarily blame you. I've actually been meaning to build some other Pokemon here on the show, but I just don't know who to build to take care of the pool. Oh, Squirtle! Squirtle's a great idea. Not only could he fill the pool when it gets low, but he could also take care of the water. The only thing is, do you know how to build a Squirtle? Yeah, I don't either. But I think I might have an idea. Hey everyone, and welcome to Group Builders, the show where we create together. I'm your host, Disorderly Cone, and this is my friend Togepi. In this episode, we're going to be building our very first Squirtle water feature fountain thingy. And to be totally honest, there's no plans that currently exist out there to do this. So that means we're going to have to completely do it ourselves. We're going to have to design it, print it, put the parts together, sander down, primer, painter, sealer, and then test it. Will everything work out? Will everything come together and look halfway decent? Groovers, these are great questions. And the first place we need to start is with a plan, and we can only get that on our workbench.
And boom! Our workbench and our idea book. And look, no gloves! Let's go ahead and open this up to a fresh page. Now the first thing to remember here is that Squirtle, my friends, is a turtle. Now I am not a good drawer or a good handwriter, so I'm gonna do this as plain as possible, okay? So he's a turtle. That's a really good thing for us to remember. And the thing about turtles, they have a lot of rounded shapes, and especially Squirtle, he has a ton of rounded shapes. And because those rounded shapes exist, when it comes to sanding, we're going to be very careful not to oversand certain areas that might stand out, like on the front. Just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing we need to know is that when Squirtle's going to be handling water, he's going to be having pressure go through him. If we have a lot of pressure go through Squirtle, you might see our Squirtle go flying if we put a tube straight through him. So we need to almost design it in a way that will be kind of out of the way and maybe even assist in keeping Squirtle grounded. When I'm not flying through time and space in my time machine, I work as a hydrovacer, so I can take this knowledge from that industry and apply it to this. I know that we need to have a S-bend, or at least something like this in our Squirtle for our water to move correctly through it. You see, when we have water pressure going through here at some force, it's going to be pushing. And if we have a force here going, it's going to be pushing against this wall here. And if it goes back, it's going to be pushing against here, which is no bueno. So what we need is we need the water to actually push Squirtle down and then kind of have it come back up. So maybe something like this. This will allow pressure to come down and put force maybe on the feet of our Squirtle. I'm going to try to do this maybe a little bigger here. So if I'm a horrible drawer, but let's get the concept of this down, okay? So we got this big tail over here, and then Squirtle kind of does one of these things, right? So what we'll do is we'll have our little pipe here come in from the bottom, okay? So the pipe will come in like this. And then I'm going to do the little feetsies down here. Oh yeah! And then we have like the little I think shell, and then we have that little head. Actually, that's not too bad. I'm kind of happy with myself. Let's see if I can screw oh, I'm screwing that up now. Well, I spoke too soon, everybody. Okay, and we're going to have some hands kind of come up like this, like that. And okay, we got a rough look of our Squirtle. Inside though, like I said, we almost want to have our pipe kind of come like this and do a downwards pressure kind of thing. And then we'll have it come up and back out the mouth. Now, in theory, if I do this correctly, what should happen is Squirtle should be forcing down because this pressure will be pushing down into our feet, hopefully stabilizing Squirtle on the ground. We can also use the tail here to help us. I think this should work pretty well. If we want to, we could print something and put it inside of Squirtle's mouth that would allow the water to come out a little bit faster. But for right now, I just want to see how it goes with our basic 9mm tubing. So we're going to use some 9mm tubing to actually put through our Squirtle. Now, when it comes to designing our piece, what's very important to remember is that there's a lot of 3D models out there of Squirtle that already exist, and we're going to go ahead and use this one right here. Now I'm going to take this model and we're going to take it into Tinkercad. I haven't done a whole lot of 3D modeling either, and this is a very basic design that I've done. For the most part though, for what we're doing, this should be perfect. My printer is a Ender 3 Plus, so I need to make sure that everything can fit on the bed. And unfortunately, our Squirtle's too big, so that means we're going to have to cut it into a few pieces. But that also means if you have a smaller printer at home, the file will work for you too. The material we're going to be printing with today is basic white PLA, and the reason for this is we're going to be sanding it down and putting some colors on top of it, and that white will really help us with our painting process. Now, a good thing to keep in mind about our PLA is that if it does get too hot outside, you might see some warping, but with this having water going through it, it should be almost acting like a coolant system. Anyway, let's move on to the more important things. We're going to go ahead and put a 30% infill on this, and I think that should be more than enough to provide the stability needed to be able to support the water going through Squirtle and also structural integrity. Okay, after we've gone ahead and printed our Squirtle, there's another piece that we need to be concerned about. In this particular case, we're going to be hooking up our Squirtle to a pool. And if you know how a pool jet looks, it has a little ball on the inside, which allows you to kind of angle the water in a certain direction. If you want to, you can kind of face it upward and it will almost create a kind of waterfall sound in your pool. Kind of cool, right? Anyway, what we're going to do with ours is we're going to modify that piece and we're going to make it flat, and we're going to put a 9mm connector on here as a quick connect. And this quick connect will act as a really good hold. And if we need to, we can actually put some twist ties on this and make it even stronger. But keep in mind, if we put this on our pool end, we almost need a whole assembly to go on, especially if you're going to be attaching this permanently to the nozzle here. You're going to need to also print the outside ring that will go on the jet itself, and the reason why is because you will need to feed this onto the tube first before attaching it onto the nipple. If you don't do this correctly, what will end up happening is you'll attach this here and you won't be able to put it through here at all, because the ball is designed to be bigger than this guy here, and that will hold the ball in place. That's how that's kind of engineered. So this right here again is bigger, and this guy here holds it in place. So if you're going to be attaching the tube here permanently to our little piece, you need to keep in mind you also need to print that ring. I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Another idea that we could do is print a quick connect. That would be something that would go to a garden hose. And these are really awesome. All we need to do is purchase some small O-rings, and those O-rings will go just right here and right here, and that will stop the water from going anywhere. And then we'll make a male connector, or sorry, we'll make a female connector. And this female connector will be able to go directly onto our water hose. So with this particular method, we could actually control how much water Squirtle is pushing out of his mouth by just adjusting the water hose. That is a really awesome method. If you wanted to control the amount of water coming out of Squirtle's mouth from the pool, you would need to either increase the pressure in your pool by having a multiple speed pump, or you would also have to maybe clog one of the other jets in your pool to allow the pressure to be put more out the jet that has Squirtle attached to it. Okay, I think with our plan here all set out and our parts designed, we can go ahead and print our parts. Wish me luck, Groovers.
To Squirtle or not to Squirtle? That is the question. And I think we're gonna Squirtle, my friends. Matilda did a great job printing off all of our pieces. There's only one or two bits that kind of have some flaws, and that's actually my fault. The reason being is that your Ender 3 Pro should be able to print this completely flat. But because I've done some modifications to mine, I've lost some build volume and actually had to flip it like so. Because I did that, there was some printing errors. Also, there was some under extrusion problems, but that's okay because what we're going to be doing is actually making this all better by adding a little bit of PLA, smoothing it out, and we'll go through the whole process a little bit later. But first, we need to talk about attaching all of our pieces together. And the best way that I find to attach 3D printed parts is with a soldering iron and a 3D pen. A soldering iron is really good for melting the two pieces together and actually infusing them, while our 3D pen is really good for adding bits of, well, PLA or material that might have been left out in the 3D printing process. Or if you maybe accidentally get a little too melty happy, you can add a little bit extra there to kind of make up for that. Now, by using these two in conjunction and keeping this at a lower temperature, it almost allows you to turn the PLA into like a clay, and you can pretty much form it into any shape you want, which is really awesome. Just keep in mind though, you have to keep it warm, and working with your fingers can be a little bit painful if you don't have calluses. Now, one more thing before we get to attaching all of our pieces. If you're following along at home and are going to use some super glue, don't use a soldering iron to attach your pieces afterwards. The reason for this is, well, it will release a whole bunch of toxic stuff into the sky and into your lungs, which is just really not good. And I don't want you to inhale those things. So again, if you're going to use this method, that's cool. If you're going to use a super glue method, that's cool too. Just don't use the two together. Okay, now let's talk about loosely putting our pieces together, and we're going to do that with our tube that we have purchased. Now, the first thing we're going to do is grab our head here, and you, sir, are going to eat our tube. Just like that. And we're going to push it through so it comes through, and we're not going to go too far just yet because we're going to grab our upper body here as well. The upper body, we'll insert that tube as well, get in there, and we'll push it through, just like so. And you might have to do a little bit of feeding action like this. Come on, Squirtle, I know you're hungry. And eventually it's gonna pop out the bottom. You just kinda gotta pull that little lip there. A little bit of finagling there, Groovers, just a little finagling. Get in there, get in there. I should be using tweezers. I mean, we are group builders after all, right? Actually, let me put my head down further here, just so that way I get a little bit more control, and there we go. I'm being silly because I'm trying too hard. Anyway, let's go ahead and put this through here. And we can actually keep our pieces separated right now for the most part. Let's go and grab the last piece that needs to have a tube through it, which is our tail area. This is where that S bend is, and it actually goes through pretty simply. Now, if you have an error back here, if you have any point in time a really hard time pushing your pieces together, just kind of move the tube around a little bit. Keep in mind, this is actually quite malleable, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it without breaking our 3D print, and boom. See how it all clicked together there? Pretty nice and easy. Now we have a basic structure. We're going to continue to feed this tube through our Squirtle until we have a little piece left in the mouth, okay? So let me just do that real quickly here. Just eat it. Eat it. Oh, just a little bit more there, buddy. A little bit more. You've eaten the entire thing. Just a little bit. Okay, you know what? That's actually okay. What we'll do is we'll tape this end right here, and by taping this end, it will allow us to paint the entire Squirtle without causing any kinds of blockages. Now, what's kind of good about this as well is afterwards we can either cut this here or we can continue to pull it back through the Squirtle, but not too far. If we want this to look realistic, having a pipe at the front won't be too good, so we will need to pull it back a little bit further to get that effect. Now let's continue to put the rest of our Squirtle here together that we can. The arms here go on either side, and they should just click in like so. There we go. Awesome. And now the last piece here will actually be our tail. So, and all in all, this is what our Squirtle kind of looks like. That looks really neat, right? Okay, now let's go to the next step and actually fuse all of our pieces together. And to do that, we need to get to our workbench. Oh, okay. Now after all that sanding, and priming again, our Squirtle is ready to go. Or I think he's at least the best he's going to be. Now the thing we're going to be painting with is our airbrush. Now I haven't done a whole lot of airbrushing on the channel. Actually, this will be my first video ever doing airbrushing. And I'm not the greatest at it, so it'll be very interesting to see the finish on this. The way I'm going to be painting our Squirtle is with acrylic paint, and we're going to be mixing it with this thinner right here. We're going to be using a 30 to 70% ratio, and we're also going to use a 10% water mixture with our thinner as well. Now, as we layer this on, we're also going to use our tape here to separate the different layers. And hopefully, at the end, when we pull all the tape off, we'll have a really awesome looking Squirtle. Groovers, let's get to painting. Okay, that was quite the painting process. I'll be totally honest with you. I haven't done a whole lot of that, and there was a lot of learning involved. Now that we got into this stage though, we need to protect our paint job with some clear coat. This clear coat is matte finish, and the reason why I want to do that is I want to create the most realistic looking Pokemon possible. Now, I'm going to shake this up and apply it. It's really simple to do. Just make sure you wear a mask. You don't want to get this stuff in your lungs. Here we go. Okay, buddy. There we go. All right, we're all finished. Now you might not notice a big difference, and that's because, again, it's a clear matte finish, and being that the paint was already matte, it really does blend in well. Now we need to add the all-important piece, which is going to attach to our pool. This is our little pool attachment. Let me see here. There we go. This is one little guy I 3D printed, and I also made sure that my printer was working correctly this time. Now that we have it though, we need to grab the end of our tube, which is right here. And before we go and smash this all together, what we need to do is take off the side of our jet. And before we do that, we also need to point our Squirtle. Let's go ahead and do that. And there we have it, our Squirtle all completed. This was quite the process, from design right down to the painting. I must admit, there was actually quite a learning curve in the painting process, learning how to use our pigment and thinner just right, but overall I think we did a really good job. Now, since I've started filming, there's been a couple of times where this model has fallen down and there's a couple of scratches here and there, even after I sealed it. So that means I'm just going to have to go back over it with some touch-up paint here and there, but overall, I'm really happy with how our Squirtle turned out. If you're looking to build this project yourself, look in the description down below. There'll be a link right there to this 3D model in our Cults page. And it's completely free. There'll also be a link there where you can find all the other little bit of knickknacks that you might need to get this project working for yourself. Groovers, I had a really good time building Squirtle with you, and if you guys had a good time, don't forget to press that like button. For more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we got all kinds of really cool content coming out in the future. Want to help the channel grow? Check out groupbuilders.ca. We have all kinds of really awesome models on there at great prices with fast shipping to the United States and Canada. And who knows, you might even find your new hobby on there. Until next time, Group Builders, keep building. All right, Togepi, I'll get you in your floaty and you can start playing with Squirtle.